I'm setting up for the demo here. Let me just situate the camera a little bit better here. I posted the link to my blog where you can find the images. And like it says on there, you know, you can work from the screen, or if you want to print it out. I don't know what kind of access to a printer you have. I always prefer to print out and work like this than looking at the screen. And so you can pick whichever image is there. I'm planning. I'm going to start this guy. This is the way that I cropped this painting. It's, you know, I've got the other half over here, and so today I'll start this one on my own time. I'll come back to it. And I want to eventually do a drawing of both of them. But I'll start with him on this side here. And on the monitor there on the screen, it looks like the paper. It looks gray, but it's actually, in comparison to the color of the printout, it looks gray. But it's tan, like a tan color. So this is the paper that you need. And see, the whole sheet of it is 18 by 24. So I'm gonna use half of it for one of the figures. So this is like 12 inches. So it's like 18 by 12, the space that I have here. And I'll sketch out the whole figure, but then I'll zoom in so you can, like, I'll work on the torso here. I'll zoom in so you can see better how that's gonna progress. So you need the paper, your printout, and let me show you here.
Sir, I was only able to find 9 by 12 tan paper.
Okay, can you say that again?
I was only able to find 9 by 12 paper. I went to look twice, and they only had the 9 by 12. So the same size that we got the gray paper in.
Yeah, the thing is, well, I have some paper. If you want to, I can give you some paper. I mean, you can start it today with what you have, so you can see how I'm gonna use the colors in accordance with the paper, right? But I would like it bigger, because we're gonna make a painting, you know, that is we're not gonna do a 9 by 12, you know, because then the figure is gonna be tiny. So we need a bigger paper, a bigger canvas. So yeah, if you can find it, I do have some of this paper with me here that the school bought, and I would, like I said, you know, you can come by and I'll give you a piece. Where did you go?
I went to Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby has a good section of colored papers in the back.
Yeah, I went to the part where they have all the sketchbooks and every type of paper and like books, which is where I got the other one. And they only had, like, I was looking for the big pad in tone paper, but they didn't have it. It was all they
have it. They should have it as single sheets.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where Where is that section at?
Well, I think there where you were, if you just go down to the end of the wall there, they have a whole bunch of different colored pastel papers and mat boards and things like that.
Okay.
I've seen it. I've not looked into all the different papers, but it looks like they've got a huge selection of different colored papers.
Mhm.
And if you're on campus later today, just come by and I'll be happy to give you a piece of paper.
Are you gonna be there on Friday?
Also, what I'll do is like I've got outside I can clip it onto one of these things, one of these uh, I've got some of these things out there with attached to the wall, and I can just leave it there hanging on and just come get it. I've left paint for students like that, and they
Okay.
yeah. I'll be here Friday, but like in case I go out for lunch, or it'll be there.
Okay.
But yeah, today try and just use what you have and keep up with the drawing.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question about the actual painting.
Okay.
What size do you want the canvas to be? Because I know you want it bigger than a 9x12.
Let me see. I think I put on there. Let me go to the. I think no smaller than 18 by 24.
So do you want us to get a, like a stretched or unstretched canvas that's 18 by 24?
Yeah.
Or do you want us to work directly on the drawing pad, like we're going over the drawing with paint?
No. Today we're gonna draw on paper, and then
Okay.
on Monday I'll do the demo of the painting on a canvas. Yeah, this is so that you can kind of get an idea of how to use the same colors that you're gonna use on the painting. And yeah, this is like a practice, kind of like what we did with the portrait.
Okay, so when we actually do start painting, it's also going to be 18 by 24?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll put, like I'll mention it right now and later, like you're gonna tone your canvas, the color of the paper, which you can do that with acrylic paint, and all you need is you can buy some raw sienna acrylic paint and mix it with white, and you should be able to get the tan color, or that's the easiest thing, just raw sienna and white, or white, yellow ochre, and a little bit of red, a little bit of burnt sienna. And I'll post that. I'll post that later. Okay. Yeah, but today we're gonna draw on paper, and then we're going to next week we'll paint on the canvas the same image. And this this method of choosing these colors for the drawing and the tan paper. I mean, look at the drawing that I have here on the screen. This is Peter Paul Rubens drawings, and of course, at the time there was no photography, so the artist they would do a lot of sketches. So a lot of his paintings, they're made from drawings like this. You see, this is a portrait of his son, but it's the same pigments we're using. He's got tone paper. He might have toned the paper with watercolor. I don't know if it was actually like, tan paper. And then you can see that there's red chalk and there's charcoal, and maybe some highlights of white. But the tone of the paper becomes part of the whole value structure of the drawing. And of course, because they didn't have photography and they had to work fast, these colors will allow you to quickly make a drawing and make some notations according to where the light is falling, the temperature. So yeah, like he was not working on these drawings for 18 hours. Maybe a couple of hours to do these sketches, and then let me show you also like the paintings. They're done from these drawings. Peter Piper pizza. All of these figures have sketches in drawing or in paint. He's got smaller sketches of figures like this that he then incorporated into larger compositions. And of course, some have survived, some have not. So this is so you just become aware of the history of drawing and the history that drawing and painting share. How they were used, within the process, within the working process of an artist. And this is Peter Paul Rubens. He's got a very definite style, like his figure, especially his female figures. They're very voluptuous, and so his figures are called Rubenesque. Which means a very voluptuous and kind of heavy looking figure, very muscular male figures as well. You might have heard that term previously on if you took art history, but yeah, that's and so because the way that he worked, he did not have the model there throughout the whole creation of the painting. He was, when you make a drawing quickly, you make some notations, and then when you're working on the painting using that drawing as the reference, then you've got to bring in your knowledge of light and shade and of anatomy. So you end up creating not so much a portrait, but your idea of the person. And in a way that this is, like his paintings are representational, they look realistic. You can recognize them as figures. But really, nobody looks like these figures. They're stylized according to his aesthetic choices. The same thing with other artists like Van Gogh or like Michelangelo. They're not portraits of people. I mean, they are in a way, but they're more than that. They're the idea of a person. And so it's interesting. It's like you're combining. This is called synthetic drawing and synthetic painting, as opposed to like in some art historical papers, people that research art, and they make the division between empirical painting and synthetic painting. Empirical painting is like empirical knowledge, when you draw for hours and hours and try and capture all the details, when you're like rendering all the details from observation. Here, I think that to me this is greater when art looks like, when art has this kind of stylizing, because you're combining reality with your own ideas. And I still don't know how to do this, but like a few semesters ago when I taught this class, I had the students, I brought the model for one day, and they used these same colors to draw the model. And then part of the coursework for the classes, they had to make a painting from that drawing only as a reference. So they, they ended up, having to invent, because they didn't get to finish as much detail as they wanted. And of course, they had something to go by, but, they had to, fill in the gaps, so to speak. And I think that was a good exercise. I think it makes you aware of how these guys worked. They didn't have hundreds of photographs. Like, I mean, I use photographs as references, but it's different when you're having to rely just on a sketch. It does force you to be more inventive, more creative. Painting, that's what also why I'm not a big fan of photorealism, because in photorealism, you're just like trying to copy the photograph right there in front of you. Here, it engages you more, like your mind and your creativity and your aesthetic choices. Right now, it's just so that you know how the technique works. And then I kind of have an idea what we're gonna do next after the master copy. I want you guys to make a painting of a figure. It doesn't have to be nude, of course, but I do want you to incorporate this way of working. Maybe you have somebody pose for you. Of course, that don't have to be nude. It can just be somebody, and you make a drawing of them, and then you use that drawing as your only reference to make that painting. And it's called the synthetic because it's made from different parts. It's made from your observations, and then it's also made from your previous knowledge and the other references. A lot of times also, like Rubens here, some of these figures are borrowed from statues from antiquity, from Roman and Greek statues. So that's what we're working on. So let me show you. I just got a text here. Let me switch the cameras here. So this is what you need. My white chalk is running low. I like I like this pencil format. So I stuck it in this lead holder. But you can also use I like it in the pencil form because it's easier to sharpen, but of course you can use white chalk like this. And you need also your red chalk in pencil form. You can even have a colored pencil, like a burnt sienna colored pencil. I really like the Conte brand, but there's a lot of different brands. And they're good brands, and also some charcoal pencil. This is what I'm going to be using. Yes, I've been waiting for a response to an email. They finally responded right when the class was. It's a long email. I have to I'll go back after class. So much communication going on all the time now. And I mean, I'm a big fan of, of Peter Paul Rubens. Let me lower this a little bit. No, it's too low. Now what's the story? Hope you're not disturbed by by this guy right there. That's from my figure drawing class. We're adding the anatomy there. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this artist, and he very interesting character. You know, Peter Paul Rubens. He was one of the one of the greatest, and he not only was he a great painter, but he was also a he was also a he was a politician, a diplomat. He would help organize, the art collection of kings and queens of Europe. But he was very busy, so a lot of when you read about him, they always criticize him because he had a big workshop, where he had a lot of assistants. So a lot of the paintings that he did are made not only by him but also by his assistants that were also very capable, of course, painters. And so they try in a way to minimize I feel, his accomplishments. And he was very successful financially, and so let me move my. He had clients throughout Europe. And so there was a lot of demand for his work. So he had this huge workshop, and he had a very talented assistants. And he had this is all documented. Like he had a system for pricing his work. Like if you wanted to buy one of his paintings, there were different options. Like, did you want the painting done entirely by him, which would be the most expensive version of the painting, and then he had other uh, variations where, like, it was done where the background was entirely done by his assistants, and he would just do the main figures. And he had, also like where he just did one of the figures, depending on your money. And so And there are some paintings, like I guess the ones that are you know the best of his collections. That where you can tell that he did it entirely by his own hand. You know, the quality is just better. But he was a very busy man. You know, he had, I don't know, he spoke like 7 languages. Of course, he was in Europe. He probably spoke every European language of the time. Uh, and of course, he was an authority on Greek and Roman cultures. He had a huge collection of, you know, sculpture collections of from those two civilizations. You know, and also he, I mean, there's a very interesting story where somebody, you know, was being painted by him, and they noticed that uh, when he was painting, I mean, this guy could multitask. Like he was doing a painting of this very wealthy, you know, patron, and at the same time he was having a conversation with this person who probably spoke German. So he was having a conversation in German as he painted a masterpiece, and at the same time he was dictating a letter in French to one of his secretaries. Uh, and so he was doing all these. I mean, he must have also had like an incredible IQ level, you know. And when you see the amount of work that he produced and the beauty of his drawings, it is quite amazing and just something to aim for. Even if we're never gonna get there, it's just something that is accessible to me. Of his greatness is his drawings, you know. And he had a also like a partnership with an artist. His name was Franz Schneider, who was one of the great animal painters of Europe. So a lot of the animals you see in his paintings were not painted by him; they were painted by that artist, Franz Schneider. You know, he would specialize in birds, lions, or any kind of wildlife. And just to kind of talk about what I'm doing, see if you were with me for figure drawing last semester when we did the block-in, that's what I kind of did here just to kind of get situated. I'm not going to go into it a lot of, as much in depth as I did, or as I do with the figure drawing class with this method, but just so I have an idea where this is going to line up here. And if you've never done this method, I think it's great for giving your drawings more form and you know, structure. Makes them more three-dimensional, makes them more solid. So like just drawing with straight lines. And this method is a method that was not employed by Peter Paul Rubens. It's all about this. If you look at his drawings, all about these beautiful curves. He's the epitome of the Baroque artist. A lot of S curves, a lot of movement in his work. And his cast drawings, he would use red chalk when he would make a drawing using a sculpture as a reference, and he would make it look alive. You know, he would make it look like the statue had come to life, become alive. I want to make sure that I fit the whole figure. Feel like I'm running out of space. I gotta make. That's why you know this type of sketchiness is great because I can erase it again and fix it. Make sure that I can fit it on. I think the torso and the head got a little too big. I can keep this, but pick up the size of the head here. Just the basic shape. On the arm. It's much easier to make the correction at this point with this kind of sketchiness than later on. So now I can fit it on there. See now I feel like I can fit it on there. Just push it back. See now it's all within the paper. So now I'm just gonna with with what I have now. I'm gonna zoom in here. It just work on the torso. I was like working on the torso so intricate and so much detail to work with. And so I erase a lot, and every time I try and every time I erase, and redraw, try and make corrections. But I think now I can just kind of draw. And this this type of line work is more precise. I'm not moved on to using my fingers more than my shoulder for drawing. And like when I did the demo on painting here, you look at this, look at look at this guy here. It looks darker there on the screen, but they're like there's a definite shadow here. But even though he's not blocking in, there's always that structure to his drawings. There's light and shadow, and you can see it there. All this is in shadow, all this is in light. So this is what I like about this Adam and Eve, of course. He's got a beard. Looks like a very hipster looking Adam. Usually they put Adam without a beard. The clavicles. Sternocleidomastoid, trapezius, all this scaleneus muscles. Pectoralis. Deltoid. Bicep, tricep. Everything is described. So I'm gonna have to pick this up. And you see the mass of the rib cage. And it's what I love about doing these demos and like or making just master copies. Like I noticed this, right? The spherical form of the rib cage. And there seems to be like it's like up here is a cube, the sphere, and then this part looks very blockish, very much like the cube also. So there's like that, like cube, sphere, cube, and then like the part of this part of the leg is very spherical also, or like an X shape. And then the gluteus is more squarish. So there's like this very conscious repetition of basic geometric forms in the way that he's drawing. It's like again, it's cube, sphere, and then the knee is like a cube. So that's something I never observed, like, and I think it's pretty cool. Now with that, see, and then like you see that like cube, sphere, cube, sphere, cube, and then that's gonna be a sphere. Back. And of course down here it's I would just following that pattern, I would venture to say that's a cube. I can kind of see like the blocking is there, the knee, the round is the blocking. Pretty interesting. And again on the arms as well, and like it's like a sphere. It's more like an egg, but like it's round and then it's like that round again. And then cube, same thing up. Okay, now I can take a picture. So I mean, keep an eye out for stuff like this as you're working on your drawing. Look for these basic shapes and how the artist, use them to create, repetition and rhythms in their drawings. You see, I'm erasing, but I'm very lightly because I want to preserve some of this for the next, stage. I just want to make it like a ghost image. That was just a nice discovery there that I made for myself. Hopefully you find it insightful. I don't know. I kind of made my day. Kind of art nerd that I am. the outline. So I'm using, as you can see, I'm using the charcoal, but I might even this stage I might erase it in a little bit and then go in with the red chalk. So another thing with Peter Paul Rubens is that his drawing, like I've mentioned, in the past, usually an artist is good with drawing and not so much with color, but he combines both, like great drawing and great color. Some historians, some art historians describe it, or they talk about that in his lifetime, people would say that his colors look like as if he had crushed the pearls and sapphires and rubies, and he had crushed all these precious stones and used them as the pigments for his paints because his colors were so bright. Uh, and I think some of the paintings, and that's how you can tell it was done entirely by him. Uh, I've seen a couple of paintings by him that have that quality. You're like, that you read about it, or like I'm telling you, like that it seems like an exaggeration that the colors are as bright as these precious stones and jewels. But I remember I saw a portrait he had done of one of his most talented assistants. It was like, I guess when that boy entered into his workshop, when it's one of his, the name of that artist is Anthony Van Dyke, and when you see it, like you see the skin tones, and the blue looks like sapphire, and the red looks like ruby. It's like, and it's so glossy. It just kind of blows your mind. When I mentioned when we did the drawing with the previous drawing that we did, that we want to make a drawing. We don't want to make a pastel painting. What that means, you want to use the paper. And so you want to start, to look, okay, what's the light, what is the light pattern here? But look, before I do that, let me just mention, like, because people always ask, how do you do hands? So one way to do hands, I'm gonna move this so I can do forward hands. Use this as opportunity to show you how to do hands. You look for the basic shape, the flat shape that, like when I started, that blockage, you can block it in. There's, which is kind of relates to that positive, negative. So you do that. And then you can, cut it into more. This one has the index and middle finger extended. So you do that. And you keep cutting into it so it's more accurate. I have to extend these two fingers. And then you look at there's like a top plane that is made by this portion of the hand. And then there's a shift in the plane where from the knuckles onto the fingers. Look at the light pattern there. That's what this came to mind, because I saw the light pattern really clear here. But see, like that's what I did, the basic envelope, the big shape, and then I cut into it. And you have to tell yourself, like, this is just a shape. This is not this complicated structure of a palm and 5 fingers, and then the fingers are broken up into all these little, segments. So you want to simplify, not only in the way that you're seeing it, but in your thought process. And so now I can make it a little bit more organic and more natural. Now I'm just using what I had there underneath to make it finish it up. So you see, if you break it up like that, it's pretty easy to do the hands. Now this one, I'll do the same thing. I will look for the envelope. And when I cut into it, it'll become like a mitten, something like that. And then I'll cut into it even more. Separate the index from the middle finger and the ring finger. So it's very flat, right? And then again, you want to, there's a plane. It's a little bit off the camera view there, but there's a to find the plane, you look for the plane break, you know, like let's see. You see this line, that's the plane break. And usually there'll be a highlight there or a lighter bounding. That's what I find. And he has a very gentle gesture as he's reaching or touching her bosom. I extend this. So I can erase. You see, my pencil, my line work was getting very feathery and kind of blurry, and I don't ever like that. I want to go back and sharpen my pencil. So using all that underdrawing that I did there, I can finish it off. So there. Some quick demos on how to do the heads. Showing it here. Yes. I want to point out the treatment of the edges. Right, you've got this hand. And so the pinky, very blurry, the outline. And each finger gets a little sharper. And then like the shadows bring out these forms, closer to us. So that observation to those edges, see how nicely it moves it from this area being closer to us, and then progressively getting less distinct in the outline. They're getting very soft. And that happens throughout the figure, like all this, like you kind of lose the edge here, and then totally kind of loose it there, and then very sharp against the dark back. It's never consistent. There's always all these gradations and fluctuations to the edges. Same things, throughout the whole painting. It's just like it's a great lesson, to just look at these and learn what this guy did. And now I can focus now on the on the on the light and shadow. Just erase one more time here. But this time I'm gonna preserve most of the drawings. I really like how this is looking. And one thing I always emphasize in drawing one, painting one, I'm gonna try and organize my light and shadow, and I'm gonna try and find that shadow shape. So that's kind of what I did there. And there's a pattern of the shadow here on the lower jaw. Down to the sternum. So that separates, the head points. Light, shadow, light, shadow here. Sometimes it gets a little tricky because like here, like, well, what about the beard? If I squint, I saw that this separated from the rest of the beard. So whenever you're in doubt, you can squint. Maybe look at the shadow here. And see how descriptive it becomes. And then I can go into the arm as well. And there's This is form shadow. This is cast shadow. And then goes down here. So sometimes that's all you need right there. And most of this of the left arm here is in shadow. There's just a little bit of light coming through. So you're having a hard time deciphering where is the line, where's the shadow. Squint, and then everything separates. If you choose to do, let's say her, if you choose to do Eve, there's less of her in the shadow, right? And that's symbolic, right? When you think about the figure and the male and the male and female, one is light, one is darkness. You know, there's all that duality that Rubens is trying to address here. I mean, this one has, minimal shadows here on the edge. The shadows are mostly on opposite of the front of the back. A little bit of shadow shapes there. Again, you have to try and find those. And that's what we need now, so that we can start to work out something with the red chalk. So remember, it'll be the same ideas. That I was doing when I did the drawing of Velasquez. I'm gonna move on here to the red chalk. So I want to play it safe, and I don't want this charcoal here to overpower. Erase a little bit. I'm gonna sharpen my red chalk a little bit. So that should work better. So they're by following the formula that these artists had for for light and shadow. That's how I'm gonna progress here. Like I know that, like I mapped out the shadows. I determined what is the shadow mass. So I know that the formula that these guys had was that the shadow mask is going to be warm. And then the turning, the edges are going to be cool. And then again, as you go into the light mask, it'll get a little bit warmer, and then I can have the highlights. And I see, I mean, that's just like the general idea, you know. It doesn't mean that, like you see here, like on the bicep, it's very red. And let's say this is shadow mask, but it's still not as warm. Same thing over here, like this gets on the pectoralis. And then it gets on the sternum, it gets a little cooler. And also those choices has to do with the anatomy. You know, this area of the pectoralis is very fleshy, so that's why he's making it warmer. Here, the skin is right next to the sternum. I mean, you can tap yourself there with your finger. You can feel the bone right there. So I think that's why he's also changing the temperature, even though this is shadow mask. Of course, here the bicep is very fleshy. So there's all those things to consider also as he's drawing. Of course, look at the belly. It's the little pouch there. And it's very red, you know, it's fleshy, describing that it has a lot of blood and meat there, you know. And see, here you start to see more of that, the coolness of the turning. So this is what I'm gonna follow as I go in here. Then I can zoom in. So I'm gonna add some of this red on the shadow mask. I'll try and be, you know, systematic, you know, working in stages. You see the way that I'm shading, I'm like tiptoeing around this. You know, very delicately going in here. You know, trying not to over deposit this red pigment. Because I'm still not sure, you know, I'd much rather, if I have to erase very little of this pigment. Then a little bit more. There's a very here in the underarm, it gets very dark. I'm still gonna add some red here because this is all shadow. I want to work on this area and then move on to the rest. But that's using this knowledge of the formula that these artists had, is what how I'm going about it. Then the turning, it's cool. Use the black here. And I'm using an HB. It's an HB charcoal. And the turning is right along the border here. Right along the edge. And sometimes it just kind of blends in with the, but it depends on the curvature of the muscle. You know, sometimes some are more rounded, some more angular. Here it shows a little bit of the separation of the bicep from the tricep. So here it's an indentation, so I think that's why it looks more blue. And also if it looks too red, I want to tone it down. I want to throw some water on it so that it's not as hot. I'm gonna go in here, the underarm. And this is pretty dark, but I don't want that to be I want it just to be cool. I'll go over it with some red here. And then there's, description of the serratus muscle and of the rib cage underneath. That's what I'm describing there. Now, this is the method that I use for my drawing, right? Like I did blocking it in, and I haven't measured, I think the proportions look good. I trust that I've been doing this for a while, I just trust that it looks good. If you're still struggling with proportions, I would recommend, go back to that method of grading your drawing. Take the time, like right now, if you're following along, that's fine. But when I grade the drawings, I want them to be accurate. So grid it, make a grid. Make a grid because this is a very challenging subject matter. These drawings, drawing the figure. And I had this, I think I remember I mentioned to you, like, well, last week, not last week, but the last time we met, I had to be part of a interview process for faculty that they're trying to hire for photography. And it just kind of dragged on, like it's like a bunch of people that they're interviewing. We interviewed 6, and each interview took about 25 minutes. But this one professor, that we were interviewing, and like talking how he was motivating students to do better work now that we were working in this method of online teaching and using Zoom. And well, he's teaching photography, right? But he's like, he would tell the students that they had to post their photos on social media, like on Instagram. And that when he told them that was part of the grade, that he noticed that the work got better because everybody that was their friend was gonna see their photographs. And I was like, that's a great idea. I was like, maybe I should do that with my drawing and painting students. Like you guys have to post your drawing on social media, and I'm gonna go and of course you guys have to like just give me like what you go by so I can check them. And he said, hey, like before that, like their work was of a certain quality, but once they were aware that like more people were gonna see their work, their the quality just improved. And so it's warm and then cool. So let me, before I keep going onto the light, let me go down here. See here, because on the painting here, it looks more neutral. So when you combine both the red and the black here, or the blue, it becomes they cancel each other out. You don't always want it to be like this bright. You want to control the temperature. And so it's warm, cool, and then warm again as you start to get into the light. Let's see, this is the deltoid. The triceps. I think from the anatomy that I know from teaching it, I know that the deltoid has three portions. That's what I'm trying to describe here. Like this one that is more towards the back, one that's on the side, and one that is in the front. That's kind of what's going on here. And then I want to be careful. Like maybe now it's getting a little too red here. It's gonna look sunburned. But then again, Adam might have surely was sunburned. Not according to the way that Peter Paul Rubens painted. And then now, see, like now I can get a little bit of blue to make this very likely, just to make this turn, to make it look like it's going away from. And I'm going to use a white for the highlight. Here you got the spine of the scapula. See this highlight This is I believe this is the triceps. It's a muscle that's made out of 3 portions. That's what's called a tricep. It has, this is the lateral portion. Because it creates you follow that, it creates that plane break. And it helps in giving the arm, that, especially this portion, that box-like quality to it. And see, I'm trying not to blend all 3 of them too much. You see there? That's all you need. So that what I did there is what I'm going to follow all the way around the figure. And when we check these on Monday, I want to see that you're contrasting cool and warm to create the shadow, to create depth, create some kind of distance. And see, now I think I can make this a little darker, the shadow shape. I want to get too warm. Put some of this, some of the blue. And then I don't want to forget that it's a drawing. Like I'm thinking of it like a painting. So I want to use my lines. I know that this part of the tricep overlaps. So you want to be a little stingy with your red chalk and the white. No, don't do this. See how I'm very delicately. So that was to get me ready. I can now, what's time do now? I can go over here on the chest and on the abdominal muscles here. Same thing I was doing here, but now I got a much, I have much larger area to cover. So I'm thinking of using a brush here to smooth it out, but I need a clean brush. That's a good value right now. And now I can go in with the charcoal. Again, I've got the light, the shadow mask. It's warm. Now I'm gonna go into the turning area. Like I had mentioned, this part, it's a lot cooler. This is the sternum. But see there, that is a good stage there. And it really gets that effect of the form emerging from the shadow and coming into the light. And one thing that I hope you're getting here, like how careful I am when I'm drawing, when I'm drawing. Like, last semester in the drawing class, there was a student that she had a little boy, and you could hear the little boy sometimes in the background, calling for her, or maybe, and you could hear her like talk to him, like in a very sweet voice, like, ¿qué quieres, mijito? Like in a very motherly, like nurturing voice, right? And it just like it dawned on me, like, and I told the class, and it just came to me right now again, like, see the way that the way she talks to her child, that's the way you should talk to your drawing. That's the way you should treat your drawing. It's like this thing that is very precious and that you care about. You have to nurture it into existence. Now here in some areas it does get very dark because it's folds within the anatomy, the overlap of some of the different sections of the pectoralis muscle here. And I think I can afford here to go a little bit darker with the red over the blue. A little bit here. This is the arch of the rib cage. This part. And I can start coming out of the turning and into the light. Now this area is right here. This is where the pectoralis gets thicker. Up here, you still kind of see the rib cage. You can, press there with your hand. That part of your anatomy. This you can feel the rib cage up here. There's three portions to the pectoralis. One comes out of the clavicle, from the sternum, and one from the rib cage. But and also underneath there's the pectoralis minor that makes for this thicker form here. And you see it here on the reproduction. It gets warmer in this area than up here. Again, emphasizing that the fleshiness. So that, there's a misconception that artists just try and match colors. They try and just match what is in front of them. But it's not that simple. Like through the years and my interest in learning anatomy and all these things, like I realized, well, that's why that color is there, because of the anatomy. It's not just that he's just like blindly trying to capture the colors. You can you can get there up to a certain point just by observation, but it's very hard. Like you gotta hit the anatomy books, try and figure out what's happening. Not just when you're painting, but like devote some hours of studying. And see, you can still kind of observe here where I had done that sphere-like shape that makes up the form of the rib cage. And that's what when I'm stroking, like I know, that there's individual ribs here, and then there's the serratus muscle, and then there's another muscle on top of that makes the serratus more like just like a bulge. The serratus has, as the name says, it has like uh, has teeth like a saw, something like this. But the way that I'm stroking this is also emphasizing that sphere-like shape. And I don't want to get too red or too warm. And as the rib cage goes under, of course, it's going deeper. It's kind of, you want to think of it like it's going away from you, like doing this. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this blue. And then here, it does seem to get very blue in color. Here, the breast, pectoralis, it's hanging, and in here, there's an like indentation where the skin attaches to the sternum. Like some people, some friends that I know that they're photographers, and they see me develop a drawing like this, and they're like, it's uh it's like you're developing a picture in the dark room. I've never developed a picture in the dark room, but some of you have. That's kind of like what I'm doing. According to them, because it slowly comes into view. So I made that form too big. This it's more like that. And see, to contrast Adam and Eve, I found spheres which have curves, and I found cubes which are more angular. Uh, but overall, in Rubens, to contrast Adam for me, just look at how boxy his gluteus maximus is. See that? And then you contrast with Eve, which is totally curvy. and round. Which in this kind of depiction of male and female, of course, this is 1600s. This would be seen as a problem by some modern feminists and modern artists, you know. So yeah, this is very old-fashioned. Just look for a. I'm gonna try and find, which is always a challenge here in my office with all my drawings. So some for a reference, a drawing where I have the anatomy of the of the abdominal muscles here. I didn't quite find the one I wanted. I think this would do here. See this form you see here, the external oblique. That's that form there. That bulge that it's making there. And then there's like an indentation, and then you've got the abdominal muscles. Right? That's what you have here. These are the abdominal muscles. Now, on this you can see through it and see the spine, but that's just like these are my anatomy notes for what teaching anatomy for the figure drawing. So this is the abdominal muscles, and there's this gap that you see on very defined people. But even if you don't have this definition, like, you know, he's a little bit more round here, but you still see that gap there because there's a gap where there is no muscle. So I kind of, like, I know this is happening. That's what I'm trying to do there, like push that in. And don't think of this, you know, that turning, this dark area, don't think of it as a line. Like, don't draw it. Like, you know, when I'm describing it, I'm going mostly across it. I never go in and like I never outline because I might kill the roundness of it. I might kill that the effect of it being round. Let me see, this is the belly button. The umbilicus, which is its correct anatomical name. Right along the edge, I want to add some of this blue. And it starts to turn away from us. So you want to save, let's say, like, this kind of line work. You see this? We're used to doing a lot of thick outlines, but you want to save this line quality till the very end, and just on some areas, not everywhere. So if I was to outline this with a thick outline, it would flatten it out. So I'm going to wait on, like, I'll determine, like, I want to bring this arm more forward, so I'll use a thicker line. Not this dark, but you know what I'm saying. I want to push that away, so I'm gonna make a lighter line. Or I want to describe that a form is going under, and I'm gonna darken it. On the clavicle. This is the PCS up the shoulder. So the clavicle, if it's a bone, is right next, right on the skin here. So I want to go in here with some of the blue. So this is the exciting life of the artist here. Shading like this for hours and hours. See that blue just really pushes this area in, brings up the clavicle. So like there was getting too blue, so I'm gonna put some red over it. You know, black. I mean, I call this blue, but I mean it's charcoal, right? So charcoal's the blackness can just make a hole. So I don't want to make a hole. There's indentations and little crevices in the skin, right? Little dimples, stuff like that. So you don't ever want to put black, just a black hole on the figure, because then it doesn't look right. So here I might have overdone it with the white. So I mean, this should give you a good idea of how to go about this. We've got like 10 more minutes here. I believe the class ends at 1:35. And if you gotta go at that time, a little bit before that, you can. I mean, I covered pretty much what I wanted to. Like, I'm not gonna finish the whole thing, but I think this gives you a very clear idea of how to work this. The only thing that I would add here. See, this is the serratus muscle here. It gets a lot of light here. It has some finger-like or teeth-like projections here. I'm just gonna suggest. I want to overdo it. So there's a little bit of light here on the clavicle. And part of the scapula, spinal scapula shows here. Another highlight. And trapezius. So that just brings out more like layering of form. Maybe just a little bit of light here. This is the pectoralis portion that comes out of the clavicle. And a little bit on the external oblique. So probably like, Rubens, to do this figure, he probably had a drawing like this. This has taken a couple of hours, maybe, of course, he would have done it faster. And yeah, with these notations, you can get to this. You got the description of the shadow mass, the turnings, the highlights, the light mass, some description of the anatomy, and some of that he would figure out because he had studied anatomy. So you don't have to make all the notation within those few hours that you have to make a drawing from the model. And just a little bit here, like I want to add, as we're coming to the end here, maybe a little bit of a line here under this is the pectoralis overlapping this arm, the left arm. So that overlaps, so it's thick, then it kind of gets thin, then it gets thick. Then maybe as it goes under the rib cage, it gets mistake again. And see, you can do a. I'm gonna work on the hair for the time that we have left. And just like I showed you on the demo there, like it breaks up into big chunks, big shapes. This is some of the darkest values in the full figure here. So it's just layering. And not once have I really gone in and done, strokes. I haven't done this. I want to leave that again to the very end. Trying to create the form, the mass. Now I can do some line work to emphasize the texture of the hair. And look at, let me lower this. I thought this was a little bit low. They have like 3 dimples there. Just what you see over here. 3 big forms that make up the hair on the top here. Now I am adding some of this line work that is more like the texture of hair now. And Rubens, it's very stylized. It's like a sculpture. And well, I'm gonna leave it there. I would like to finish this. I don't know if I'll have time, but that should, get you guys started. We should stop having classes like this that cut through lunchtime. I'm starving. That's the main reason I have to stop. But if you guys have any questions, anything you might want to ask.
By next class, what do you want us to have? Like just the painting already painted, the canvas painted?
The canvas painted, the color of this color, with raw sienna and white, or like I said, with yellow ochre and white and burnt sienna. And I want you to have the drawing finished and posted on your blog so I can take a look. Yeah, that's all you need, and we'll start depending how long it takes for me to look at your drawings and give you some advice on proportions. So remember that you gotta get it as accurate as you can. So if you want to make a grid, you can do that. But yeah, that's what you need for Monday.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No problem. Anybody else? Okay. All right, guys, I will end the meeting and I will see you on Monday. All right, so have fun drawing these naked people. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Guys, have a good day.
Hasta luego.